Hello, Lowell here with GamerGuides.com, and if you have questions about the attribute system in Clair Obscur Expedition 33, we have a lot of answers. When I first started the game, I was a tad confused which of the 5 attributes to level first. Vitality, Might, Agility, Defense, and Luck. You get 3 points after each level up and they cap at 99. Each of them increases 1 or 2 secondary stats as well: health, attack power, speed, defense, and critical rate. To make matters more daunting, weapons scale off different stats, and Pictos, equipable skills, provide far more bonuses to health, speed, defense, and critical rate than attributes generally do. Thankfully, respec items called recoats are plentiful enough for you to make mistakes, but not plentiful enough for wanton experimentation. As such, there's 2 routes to take when leveling your 5 total party members in Clair Obscur Expedition 33. You can take my personal degenerate route and strictly level Might until you find a weapon you want to build around when you reach Act 2. Weapons scale off different stats and you're going to be changing them often early on, but every one of them scales off Might, making it an easy attribute to invest into as you cycle through your highest leveled weapons. Attack power, you see, scales off both Might and your weapon's base attack. On the story and expedition or difficulties, you shouldn't have too much trouble leveling only Might if you have some half-decent dodging skills. On Expert, you'll have to master dodging and parrying in order to advance. I did this and later used a recoat to dump points into Lune's Luck attribute instead in order to build around the critical hit focused Elemental Trick and Genesis skills. And I used the Diminorum weapon that scales off Luck as well. If you're looking at a more in-depth look at each of the attributes, the wonderful Nathan Garvin went into great detail to write up a guide on attribute breakpoints and soft caps over at GamerGuides.com. Link in the description. Pulling from both Garvin's article and my own experience, here's a breakdown of each stat and the best to level early. Vitality is great to level early as you're learning how to dodge and parry effectively. However, the benefits of Vitality drop off substantially the further you get into the game, meaning you rely on Pictos more for health bonuses. As such, putting around 20 points into Vitality will help you through Act 1 and most of Act 2. Thereafter, you can respec those points into other attributes. Might, as previously mentioned, increases attack power in conjunction with your weapon's base attack. This means that it's rather unimpressive early, as Garvin notes in his article, but it's worth investing into when the damage cap increases in Act 3, about 30 hours into the adventure. I personally do think it's worth increasing early on until you find a weapon you want to roll with, but mid-game you'll often hit the 9,999 damage cap with or without a lot of might. Next up is arguably the best stat, Agility. Agility allows you to attack more often by increasing speed, meaning Nevrons aren't doubling up their turns against yours. Agility also increases defense a little bit, but this bonus is negligible for the most part. In conjunction with an attack-focused stat that scales with your weapon, you should level up Agility to keep pace with the Nevrons you face unless you're really good at dodging and parrying. You can avoid every hit in Expedition 33 after all. Defense is the least useful stat. It raises the defense secondary stat, don't get confused by the same name, while also increasing critical rate by a little bit. Unless you're running a weapon that scales highly off defense, it usually isn't worth it to increase defense at all, no matter which of the 5 characters you're building for. Finally, critical rate is great for builds that rely on critical hits to deal damage, such as the aforementioned Lune build that combines Elemental Trick in order to activate the ultra-powerful Elemental Genesis. Critical hits do a total of 50% more damage, and with the right Pictos, it's not hard to get 100% critical hit chance. Up until around Act 3, however, there's a 9,999 damage cap, as I mentioned before. So unless you're building off critical focus skills, of which there's plenty, or scaling off a luck-based weapon, save luck for much later in the game. And that's all you really need to know about attributes in Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Throw in some points into Vitality early on, keep Agility appropriately leveled so enemies aren't doubling up their turns against you too much, and bump up the attribute that scales best with your weapons of choice. Or once again, just throw everything into Might and get really good at dodging. Either way, remember to like this video and maybe subscribe to Gamer Guides for more coverage of Clair Obscur Expedition 33.